Ahora sí, estamos en directo. ¿Cómo estáis? ¿Estáis bien? Os digo aquí una vez más un hola desde Madrid y os quiero decir una cosa. Bueno, ya sabéis, creo, pero yo soy Tiago. Estoy encantado de estar aquí una vez más haciendo esta live, nuestra Cambly Talks, Cambly Lives, no sé exactamente cómo llamarlos, pero aquí estamos una vez más, ¿vale? Y antes de empezar, os quiero decir lo que siempre digo, que es, si queréis tomar una clase gratis, aquí abajo os pongo en la descripción, hay un enlace con hasta un 35% de descuento, ¿vale? Entonces, si queréis tomar una clase gratis o entonces suscribirse a un plan, aquí abajo en este enlace hay un 35% de descuento, ¿vale? Entonces, ojo que es un muy bueno y estará activo solo después de unas tantas horas después de esta live, ¿vale? Pero vamos a hablar de un tema bastante interesante hoy. Aquí también, otra cosa que tengo que decirles, aquí abajo está el enlace para la tutora de hoy. Si queréis tomar una clase con ella, aquí abajo está en la descripción el enlace y ahora vamos a hablarlo y vamos al punto, ¿vale? Que es cómo trabajar desde casa, o sea, hacer algo muy interesante. Como ya sabéis, será todo en inglés. Si queréis poner las preguntas en español o en inglés, nos da igual. Vamos a contestarlo lo mejor posible. Y bueno, vamos a empezar, ¿vale? So, let's switch to English. How are you doing, Ed? How is everything going?
Hi, Tiago. I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me here today. Loved this introduction. It makes me think about my days in my beautiful España. But, I kind of traveled a bit around and stuff. So, now I have another new love, which is now Turkey, which is fabulous.
That's good. That's good.
Let me give you a little bit of my background and let you know who I am, done, where I'm from, so all these crazy people that are watching us can kind of know how crazy I am. So
that would be good. That would be good. Tell us a little bit about because I think everybody's curious about.
A little bit crazy to each Otherwise, it's a lot. But always in the midst of fun. I was born in London, as you can tell from my fantastic English-British accent. That's how when it wants, probably. But my mother is Egyptian and my dad was Italian. And when I was about 7 years of age, my parents went, no, I'm done with London. We've lived here for about 28 years. We want to move to the countryside. So we moved to a tiny little village in the north of Italy where my father was from. And we lived there for 11 years. And then my mum was like, I think you need to go back to London. And I'm like, never, I'm never going back to London. No, she deceived me, and she made me go back to London with the idea that I was going on holiday, and then secretly told me I wasn't coming back. I was like, oh, how dare you? Anyway, so cut a very long story short, about a year and a half later, I decided to move to Barcelona, where I lived for about 3.5 years. And then I moved back to London, and then I moved to Spain again because my love for Spain had not died just quite yet. It never has, to be fair. But I moved to Granada, so I lived in Andalusia for 3 years. And then, you know how the life in Spain is. It's amazing, really. It's super sunny. It's super fun. But you see, I was having a little bit too much fun, and so I thought, okay, I can't keep having this fun, so I need to become an adult, and so I moved back to London. And I started working. So I'd been doing marketing for, at this point, maybe 10 years or something. But I really wanted to get into events, and so I started working for an online poker site, and I used to organize live events. And this is where working remotely started for me, because when you're organizing events, you're always on the road, you're never in the office, and you have to bring, my laptop was my very big part of my home for a very long time, and it just started to become very normal. So to begin with, it wasn't easy because it was, the job was really fun because you were organizing things and you were talking to different people about different things.
Mm-hmm.
But then there were the emails. I mean, then there was the actual work that needed to be done away from the office.
Mm-hmm.
And with sudden, there were all these different departments that I could not go up to and talk to. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? How do I do that? And of course, phones helped tremendously. I was a lot on the phone. And of course, emails were another big chunk of remote working, as well as online meetings, and not necessarily Zoom. And we're talking 2008, so Zoom didn't exist. We still had Skype.
Yeah. At that time was Skype, yes.
Really, with Skype. But as as my role evolved, and as I started getting more involved with the really the digital side of marketing, I realized that so much of the work that I was doing from the office could actually be done from home.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about a bit of discipline, really. So it becomes, it can be really challenging at times to, power up your laptop and do work. But I found as well that I was being much more productive.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I didn't have to go into the office also meant that I could do a lot of the things that I needed to do in my own personal life. And, when I would be at events, these would be sometimes they'd be 18, 19-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So when you come back, I would die for a couple of days, just to recover.
Uh-huh.
But the great thing was that the company that I worked for really saw the value, and, the company was really ahead for its times as well in terms of how it treated its staff and the importance of being able to work from home.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I found, of course, apart from the fact that, I could do things that I wanted to do, but I felt very free. And, I left this role to move to Turkey because, quite frankly, I didn't really want to be a part of the corporate world anymore. And I always taught all of my friends, whether it was English, whether it was Spanish, whether it was Italian, I'd be correcting them, I'd be doing. And, one day when my aunt was like, well, I think you should really try and teach. And I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. But I already do that. And she was like, no, I mean do that officially, do it as a job. I'm like,
as a job, right? Getting paid for it.
Get paid to teach? I'm like, that sounds quite right. I'm like, well, I could try, So I finally did my CELTA in July this year. I left my other corporate job because I fell in the trap again. But again, even with this role, I traveled a lot. So there was a lot of remote working, and you need to be very, let's say, disciplined. Disciplined is not the right word, but you need to have a clear strategy of what you want to try and achieve in that specific day.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what you want to achieve, then the way that you do it and the amount of time that you dedicate to it really depends on yourself. So I know people that only need to work 3 or 4 hours in a day to be really productive and get everything done.
Mm-hmm.
There are other people that like to space it out. So, they do maybe a couple of hours in the morning and maybe do a couple of hours early afternoon and a couple of hours in the evening. And that's because maybe, they've got a family, they've got children to take care of.
Yeah, that's true.
There are so many factors that come into play. But thankfully, because I'd already been working remotely for a good 10, 12 years, at this point, it became very natural. And, with, of course, the most recent challenge that humanity is facing, let's call it this way.
That's a good way to call it. That's nice. I like it.
We found ourselves all of a sudden where we have to work from home. Companies have to make environments available for their staff so they can work from home. And I knew I could work from home, but it was just forced upon us again. Well, at least it was forced upon me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, I was like, oh my goodness, I can do yoga. I can eat the things that I want to eat. I can go to bed at the time that I want to go to bed at, without thinking, oh, I need to go to this bar, I need to go to this restaurant. And don't get me wrong, miss all of these things, no question. But there is a simplicity that is attached to working remotely that you wouldn't be able to have if you are forced to go into work. And, Spain as well as a country works really hard. And, I get really annoyed when some of my fellow countrymen will be like, the Spanish are boring. I'm like, sorry, lazy. And I'm like, not quite that. A lot of the working conditions in Spain, as well as in Italy, a lot of the Mediterranean countries, are not up to scratch. And, of course, different countries, different things, but they're not. And so, all of a sudden, this virus attacked us all, and nobody was allowed to leave their home. And so companies were forced to create environments that allowed their staff to work remotely. Now, I know I've done a whole winded circle. Any of my students that are watching will know that I'm quite, I can talk quite a lot, actually. But the reason I say this is to create a picture. So I'm painting a picture to what are the things that we can actually do, and what are the things that we can benefit from working from home. Now, of course, there are certain roles that are not possible, like our wonderful frontline staff that are taking care of us and treating us every single day. And to all of the nurses and doctors out there, we are super thankful forever and ever.
That's true.
But, the companies and the areas like marketing, like office work, any type of office work, there is no reason to go into the office because everything can be done from home. If you've got a reliable internet line and you've got a laptop, and maybe a phone, in case the internet goes down, fine.
Yeah.
But those three things, these are relatively cheap ways for companies to ensure the health of their staff. So that's the first thing. If you are already working from home and you want to know the best way, I don't think there is necessarily a best way to work from home. There were lots of online courses to tell you what and how and where and what. Everybody is very different. But there are a couple of things that I find that if I do first thing in the morning, they then set my day up.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I do is take a shower. I know it sounds really silly, but we've been in lockdown for such a long time now. We've kind of all a little bit gotten lazy. And at least I know the first month that I was in lockdown, I was like, yeah, party! I can wear my pajamas all day long. Hey, how mistaken was I? Because, pajamas, you can see I have my little albornoz over here, my little dressing gown here. It's a bit cold in Turkey. But once you get into your nightwear, you're ready for bed. Now, the body will go through a process, and it knows that when you put your gym jams on, it knows that you're going to fall asleep soon. And for me, religiously, whenever I put on my pajamas, I'll start getting a bit tired, and I'll be like, it doesn't matter if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon or midnight.
You start acting kind of not lazy, but everything starts to get a little bit more calm and relaxing, right?
Exactly. So the first month after lockdown, I had a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. Yes, I met up with my, like all of us, We had copious Zoom parties, or what was the other one? House party, right? We all joined house party, and we were all drinking like crazy people because we thought that alcohol was going to run out, you know. And then after a month, I'm like, okay, this again, I can't. I'm an adult. I'm not a 25-year-old kid anymore. As I keep telling myself. So anyway, so. You know, the first thing I did, I'm like, no, I need to have a shower. And so having a shower, waking your system, and if it can be a cold shower, even better. For two reasons. The first reason is that it improves your blood circulation. So it kind of gives a kick to your blood, and it kind of goes, oh, we're waking up. The second thing, it wakes you up. Very simple.
Yeah. Simple as that.
Thing, get dressed. Don't wear pajamas. Don't be naked, you know, and just wear your top. No, that's not a thing. Get fully dressed. It works.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's not, you can come across very unprofessional and very unserious. So, no, I have not done any of those things. I promise.
And we can see that from a lot of those, like we have a lot of those memes on internet right now where people are like, the camera went down, or they forgot that the camera was on, and then they just go up and then like without pants and without. I mean, there's a lot of things where people are not used with the Zoom calls, and then they forgot the camera on. So this, be careful with that.
You see, there is actually, I think I might have seen it on Instagram a couple of months ago, but there is this conference call, and they're like, it's a Zoom conference call, and there are about 6 or 7 people, and somebody forgets to turn off their camera and unmute themselves. And the poor girl was going to the bathroom. She was peeing.
I think I saw that. I think I saw this one. Yeah.
I am mortified, honestly. Yeah. And I've had Zoom conference calls like this, and I'm like, have I done something weird? Have I just did something? No, I'm okay. I didn't make a fool out of myself this time. So it's a tricky situation. Anyway, second thing is definitely to get dressed.
Yeah.
Third thing you want to do is either do a meditation or do some exercise or do something that is for yourself. For 15 minutes. It doesn't really have to be for much longer. I mean, if you want to do it for longer and you have the time to do it for longer, by all means. But it's about getting into a routine. And that's what's really important about remote working. You need to get yourself into a routine that you know you will fulfill. And because we know that to get into a habit takes about 21 days, if you do this every day, you're just going to find that your productivity goes up. You're going to find that your mental health and your physical health are going to be in a much better shape. And this is what I mean. So first month of lockdown, I was being super lazy. I was doing all of the things that I wasn't supposed to do in excess. You know, it's not about not doing any of the things. It's about not exaggerating. The following month, I started doing all these things. And there are really like 3 or 4 things to do. But it's important to do them every day.
Yeah.
And it's important that they resonate with who you are. So maybe, you know, your 15 minutes is not doing a meditation or doing yoga, but maybe it's going for a run. Or maybe it's taking the dog out for a walk. Or maybe it's reading your favorite book. It can be any activity that you resonate with, you feel comfortable with. But what that does is that you've given yourself a little bit of love. You know, you've given yourself a hug. That's what you've done. You've given yourself a hug. You've given yourself the best way, really, to start the day. Because after that, everything happens. Look, Tiago, I swear to you, if you had told me 3-4 months ago that I would be at 11:30 at night doing a live panel talking about remote working, you must be having a laugh. It just wouldn't have happened. But because there is a routine and because there is it's not even scheduled, but it's like, okay, these are the things I need to do to ensure that my day flies with fabulously. I mean, it kind of does always, but you could never be too fabulous.
It happens. I mean, it happens. And so you don't have to worry too much about it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think that's really it. Like a good routine that suits your own needs. But within that routine, you need to make sure you get a shower. And plus, that always helps with hygiene in any case, you know, with corona and everything. Get dressed.
Yeah.
Do something that makes you feel happy. And remember to eat.
Yeah. That's true.
I
was reading something very interesting though. The other day I was reading something, and then because I am the one that is kind of, I was hired since the beginning when I got into Cambly. I was hired as a remote worker. So since the beginning, we don't have an office, so a lot of the staff on Cambly are like remote workers. So since the beginning, I was kind of like, okay, I'm getting used to, I'm going to do, and then came the pandemic. So like I have to get used to while being at home. And then, as you said at the beginning, at the first month, so I was like, okay, I can do that, I can do this. I'm like, I don't have a routine, I don't have nothing. So let's keep it doing those Zoom calls with everybody drinking at home. So, and then I read something that was like you necessarily need a routine, and you don't need to follow it's not like working from home is not like 9 to 5 for everybody. You can it's definitely up to, I mean, depending of the company that you work with, but most of that you can schedule your own time, and then you have your goals and the things you have to do in the day. And you can start from that. And then I read this thing that is called, there's not a time. When you're working from home, it's not necessarily the time that you start working, but one thing that you do before start working. You can be, as you said, as I can go shower, you can like drink a cup of coffee, and you can go for a run and then come back. This is like the first thing that you do before starting the work. So it's like getting into the mindset, okay, I will start working after I do this, or that's the kind of things that you go into the routine. Then you start to understand yourself, how you actually work, what parts of the day you are more productive and what parts are not. I'm kind, yeah,
no, 100%, no, 100%. Like, you know, when I say to you, you know, these are the things that I've told you. I mean, these are the things that have worked for me specifically, because I'm a very daytime person, a daytime-driven person. Having said all of that, though, the one thing I would still recommend everybody that is working from home, when you get up, have a shower. It doesn't matter what time that is. I mean, if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when you function, or it's 6 o'clock in the morning, or 10 o'clock at night, have a shower, because it does something to the brain. It wakes it up. It kind of goes, oh, we're awake now. It's in the same way, like, you know, your pajamas will make you feel sleepy. The shower will be like, ah, here I am.
Yeah.
You know? So, but absolutely, like, you know, you create your own routine. It's not about a 9 to 5. Your routine is very personal. And I think that I wasn't clear when I was saying that. Like, it doesn't matter what your routine is, as long as you do it. Because if you have that, because then you can create discipline. But if you don't have little goals or objectives to carry out throughout the day, it becomes a very long day when you are based at home. Especially now, where, you know, some countries are in complete lockdown. I mean, for goodness sake, look at Wales. They can't leave the home anymore. You know, they were in lockdown for 2 weeks. Full lockdown.
Really?
You know?
I didn't know about it. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Poor Wales. I'm sorry.
Wow.
but, so when you are indoors 24/7, again, we've seen this all over the world, right? So it is really important that you give yourself some little micro goals. And I don't want to sound like all salesy here either, where, you need to have an objective and a goal. No. It's more of a mental checklist, if you want, for a better word.
Yeah.
Because, you know this. You've been working from home during the pandemic. So how has it been for you? Like, how have you found working remotely, like, disturb your regular life, I suppose?
I think, I was kind of... The interesting thing that I realized is that I'm the completely like up, as you said. You said that you were a morning person. I realized that I'm a night person. I'm much more productive during the night. And at the beginning, I was trying to follow like that thing. It was like I have to wake up and I have to do that in the morning and like doing this, do that, and it's super hard to be productive. Like for me, I'm like saying my example because it was something that I realized, especially during the pandemic, because it's super difficult being a night person, to wake up early and trying to be productive, as like your bed is right here. It's very tempting to not go back to sleep. It's something that, and then I realized that sometimes at night I was super productive. And I was like, okay, so anyone in the company, and like especially because since like the company, since I do the marketing for the Spanish speaking countries, most of those countries are in Latin America. So I'm kind of like ahead because Spain is the only one in Europe. So I'm like 6, 7 hours ahead of most of the countries. It's like 6 hours ahead from Mexico, for example. And I was like, sometimes I have to stay longer. So like, why I am doing that to me? Let's try to figure it out the best way I can work. So, and that was probably the first thing that was like, okay, I have to realize that. I have to find a way of actually working to be more productive without me necessarily like working 12 hours a day. I don't need to do that. Sometimes I'm very productive in 6 hours, as you said. So you don't necessarily need to be 8 hours like in front of the computer doing everything. That's another thing, right? What do you say about it?
I agree. I completely agree with you. Oh, excuse me there. One of the things that was life-changing for me about remote work was precisely that, is that I set my own day.
Yeah.
And different people have different shift times. So, when I used to work in the poker industry, you think poker players play at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? No. More likely 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'd be up until like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, Jesus.
Wow.
How can I can't do this. I wasn't a human being. But then I would see my colleagues, and they'd be like, "Yeah, we're going shopping now. We're going to you sleep, man. It's not an option." And of course, in Latin American countries as well, most people are night owls.
Yeah.
Right. So that freedom to know, you know what? As long as I get my work done, it doesn't matter what time I do it in.
Yeah.
But you need to discipline yourself to do that. So you realize, for example, that working during the day was making you miserable and less productive because you had to wake up early, which wasn't what made you productive. And when you finally got to your productive hours, you were super tired because you've been up from so early on. Yeah. But once you amended and you shifted that, all of a sudden, you had all of this time on your hands, which I'm sure, you had a much more productive work life, and you also most likely started finding things to do for yourself in the times that you weren't working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, that's also another thing that's really important about remote working, and something that so many of us have been guilty, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's not knowing when to stop.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's super true. Yeah.
And that is a really unhealthy habit.
Mm-hmm.
Because that habit leads to meltdown and burnout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we don't need to burn out. And there are hundreds of articles about this. There is a, I wish I remembered her name now, but there is a CEO that has an American company based in New York, but they're basically trying to, it's a human resources company, but they're trying to modify the way people get hired. And it's not about, and you know, and with regards to the benefits that the workers are provided with. So, you know, the companies that can join this company essentially, or get a membership, are companies that can only provide good working conditions for their staff. And look, remote work is now here to stay. This is not going anywhere, because also companies have realized that it's just far more, it makes sense. Why pay millions of pounds in office rentals? I mean, my office was in Piccadilly, number one. I don't even want to start thinking what the rent was like on a monthly basis there, but it easily £500,000-600,000 pounds.
Wow.
Why do you need that? Why do you need that when, you know, you have, you know, you need to trust your staff?
Yeah.
And now companies are obliged to do so because people can't go to the office.
Let me ask you something that I just saw here, an interesting question that it's actually very like get to what we are saying right now, because I saw here that boletins comercial, I'm not sure what is your name necessarily, but he put it here, an interesting thing that it's totally up to what we are saying now. It's like he put it, in Mexico, bosses think that you are not working if you don't answer to a message immediately. And I have to say that, I mean, it's not just in Mexico. There's a lot of other companies. I think, depending of the company and depends of not a little bit of the country. I think it's most of the country that you were, the company that you were working with. It's not necessarily the country. I think it's something that happens all around the world. It's not just in Mexico, right? But what do you think about it? Like, if you're not answering immediately, like on Slack or WhatsApp, whatever.
Well, see, honestly, so there are two things I would do. So the first thing is, it depends on the time. And it depends on the type of message that is being sent to you. So what I would do is that I would prioritize, and I would put emails or Slack messages or WhatsApp messages, when it came to work specifically, in 3 boxes in order of priority and also in order of time. So, for example, if it was something, because I used to work a lot with the US and Japan and all other sorts of countries.
Wow.
And when I was in Turkey, right? So you can imagine in San Francisco, it would be 7 o'clock in the morning. No, it would be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And in Istanbul, it would be 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I'm not going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to answer an email. It's just not going to happen. Now, I know people that do, and that's a company culture.
Yeah.
But that is not right. That's not healthy. And I just wouldn't. And the following day, I would respond. I'm terribly sorry I saw your email late. You know, I didn't see your email until now.
Yeah.
First thing in the morning, no problem. But before I would respond to that email, what I would do is that I would actually look So the night before, I would make a to-do list in my head of the things that I really need to get done the following day. And usually they would be 3 things that needed to get done. And I wouldn't do more than 3 because I knew that the day would already bring 7 or 8 or 10 more. So 3 important things that I needed to get done. And that would be the night before. The following morning, I would have a quick skim of my emails. I wouldn't go through them in detail. And what I would do is that I would skim through and I would put any emails that were related to the 3 things that I needed to get done in that day. The rest of them, I would park them. If people would contact me after 9 p.m., WhatsApp, phone, my phone is off. I am a human being. And don't get me wrong, I did none of those things when I was young and silly and stupid. I realised I didn't know any wiser. No, but jokes aside, some of the most successful people within my company also I'm talking about directors, I'm talking about CEOs, I'm talking about board members, senior managers. None of these people would respond to their emails unless, again, it was something incredibly urgent. And by incredibly urgent, it was a critical matter. So you're launching a product, for example, and the photographer has fallen sick, and the following day you have to do the shoot. Now, that's a critical type of problem, because you need the photographer to do the shoot, and you put the launch date in 4 weeks down the line, 5 weeks down the line. That's critical. And that will not be something that happens every day. And this is anywhere in the world. Yeah. And, I've been lucky enough, as you guys know, I've lived in Spain, in Italy, in England, now in Turkey. It all comes down to a good company. If the company treats well their employees, the employees will do really, really well. If the company values or mentality doesn't give a lot of freedom to employees, then you seek that freedom.
Yeah. I think it's. I couldn't agree more with you on that, because it's definitely something related to the company culture. And I just saw that the name of the person who sent us this message is Esther. So hi Esther. And I couldn't agree more. It's just depending of the culture that you're in. So
look at Cambly. Look, Cambly is a really good example about an amazing culture.
Yeah, that's true.
The team is supportive in everything that we do. Look, I had an emergency last week, and I had to cancel all of my classes at last minute. And the support team were like, "Is there anything we can do? Can we support you? If there's anything we can do to help the situation be better, please let us know." This is how it should be.
Yeah, and we are not forced into doing like you have to do this to this hour. So it's kind of they give us the freedom to work. So that's the kind of culture that you have to try to implement, but it is quite difficult. Because Cambly was born like that. It's in the culture of the company since the beginning. So, but when you are talking about like a 58, 60 years old company, it is kind of difficult to change it, right? What do you think about that? When you get to these very old and traditional companies that don't necessarily know how to work remotely. That's probably the case of Ster, and that's quite difficult to imagine. I cannot picture myself working in a company like that, because I'm not used to that kind of things anymore. So, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. The company I used to work for here in Turkey is precisely that. It's a 50, 60-year-old company, a family company, and, so very specific values, very specific culture. But COVID arrived, and all of a sudden, it's actually quite funny, because everybody was already working remotely, because everybody traveled to different countries for meetings and sales trips and whatnot. But working from the office was, you have to come to the office. And I'm like, I ain't coming to the office, mate. I don't want COVID-19, thank you very much. And all of a sudden, they were like, yeah, well, we have no option. I'm like, well, yeah, you don't have an option. And okay, a few months later, a lot of people went back to the office, but a lot of people didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, I know that there are a lot of bad things, of course, about COVID, but I think there are also a lot of good things, because some of these really old companies, two things will happen. They will either try and improve themselves to react to the current situation,
mm-hmm.
or they will disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Because people will not be willing to work for companies that don't take their own health security into place. And it's
mm-hmm.
not because of the person that's going to the office.
Mm-hmm.
It's because that person can then bring that, whatever they've taken from the office into the home, and you're putting at risk millions of vulnerable people, and I think that this is a very different thing from going, oh, well, I fancy working from home now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a life-threatening situation.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And so I really think that the world, I'm an optimist forever.
Me too.
But I do have hope. I think that this is a turning point.
Mm-hmm.
For those companies that don't understand that if you don't allow people to work remotely and give them the tools so they can do it successfly,
mm-hmm. yeah,
then you have no leg to stand on. Because let's put an example. Let's say a regular 9-to-5 office job, and you're
mm-hmm.
selling some product, whatever. So you've got your marketing department, your sales department, but everybody usually would come from 9-to-5. Now, a big company or a medium-sized company most likely will be working with other countries.
Mm-hmm.
Between Turkey and the UK, for example, from the 31st of October, there's going to be a 3-hour difference.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 3 hours is a lot, but, you have maybe somebody in Turkey, you have somebody in Poland, you have somebody in the US. All of a sudden, you've got people everywhere that can cover round the clock
mm-hmm.
everything.
That's true.
And, and educate your staff. Give them the tools to keep learning.
Mm-hmm.
If they can do that in their own time, again, if you give them incentives to learn a new skill from home, whatever that may be, if you understand that they've got a family and there are 2 kids in the house and they're toddlers, and you know what, maybe I'm not going to be able to be online at 4
mm-hmm.
o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm going to work from 6 o'clock in the morning. But you have all of these little bandwidths. But just going back to, do you respond to Slack or emails immediately or WhatsApp messages? The easy answer is no, not all the time. It depends
mm-hmm.
on the priority of said message.
Yeah, that's true.
Simple.
That's true, yeah. If it's something super urgent, even sometimes a WhatsApp message can work, but it's have to be
right?
Yeah, it have to be something super
urgent.
urgent.
You're going to be like, dude, the internet is down. Cambly, I'm sure our Cambly developers don't go, oh, well, if there's a problem on Cambly, I don't think they go, oh, well, let me just see if somebody's on Slack or on WhatsApp that I can talk to them. No, they're going to pick up the phone and go, dude,
mm-hmm.
this code thing is down, or I'm not a very good relationship. But I am sure, I've seen it, they will pick up the phone and they will call each other.
Yeah.
So...
Exactly.
People don't fall into the trap of having to answer to every single message at every single hour of the day. It's not healthy,
mm-hmm.
right? It sends the wrong message. If you're a manager, definitely don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're it sends the wrong message to your team. And if you are not a manager, still don't do it. You have a life.
That's true.
And that's very important.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to take breaks. I mean, sometimes you have to take some breaks. And as you said, as we were saying before, everybody who's watching, like we said that in the beginning, and that's super true. You have to find a way to have some things that you like to do, and you have to find the time to. I mean, you can go to the kitchen and take a cup of coffee, and you do that when you're in the office. So don't be afraid to do it. I mean, you don't have to be like here in front of the camera. It's something that you can have your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember reading a piece of research a few years ago that stated that for every 45 minutes that you are in front of the screen, you have to be 15 minutes away.
That's
because your brain, after 45 minutes, doesn't compute in the same way. So it needs to be something different. It could even be just standing up for a bit, stretching your legs, getting a cup of coffee from the kitchen, maybe having a snack, whatever. When you come back, you feel a little bit more energized.
Yeah, that's true.
That's proven. I think it's science. No, it's science. It's definitely science. It's neuroscience.
That's true, and I completely agree with you. And I would like to ask, maybe, I mean, we have like 8 minutes to the end. So, but I would like to ask you maybe this. I saw this question before, but I was like hoping to say it in the right moment because I thought it was interesting. And we can do it like this the last session because I think it will be interesting. It's from Emmanuel. So hi Emmanuel, how are you? And he asked about, like, he was saying everything like, how can I use my phone for planning my routine? So he was, since we talked, that's a super interesting and important topic. How you do it, and I'm curious about how you do it and how, maybe if you have some tips.
So there are two things actually I do, but I'm a little bit of a weirdo as well. So let's not forget that. But funnily enough, I use Google Keep. Google Keep is my best friend right now, only because I discovered it about 2 months ago. And unlike your regular notepad, it gives you the option to add like a little checklist if you want to add a time next to it. You can leave voice messages. It adds it automatically. It types it all up for you. You can add images, websites, whatever. But the night before, I'm all about the night before, because at night, actually, I'm quite creative. So I get all of my ideas at night, write them down, and then the following morning, I'm like, right, these are the things I need to do. The other thing I was using, but I really don't like it anymore because I think it's far too complicated for something that's really easy. Is Trello. So there are lots of apps out there that help you plan your routine.
Yeah.
So like diaries or calendars or whatever works best for you. So I mean, whatever is easiest, not that. Whatever is easiest.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You want to download a Trello, fine. If it works for you and you can keep it up, be my guest. It never worked for me. For me, Google Keep, super simple. And the great thing about Google Keep as well, I know I feel like I think Google should pay us for this. But
maybe.
Yeah, exactly. The great thing about Google Keep is that it links directly to all of your devices. So the moment that you add it onto your phone, you link it to your Gmail account, it will appear in any of your devices, whether it's your iPad, your laptop, your tablet, whatever. And so it's just a really easy. I'm lazy with technology, guys. I'm bad at it, so I need something that helps me. And this is the simplest way to never forget a thing.
Yeah.
To have something like clear steps written down. But I write things like have a shower, take a shower, shower, put clothes on, breakfast.
Yeah, the kind of checklist, right?
Write it down. Like the things that you want to do, just write them down.
Yeah, that's interesting because here, for example, I use a little bit of Trello as well. And for you guys who don't know, maybe I can put it here, like look, this is Trello, and see, like I have a lot of messages, and there's interesting thing because, and we realize there is another tool that it's like to for you guys to know. It's one tool that we use in Cambly for planning our campaigns and other stuff. But I found out like last week that they have a free version just for people, like if individuals, and it's called Notion. So it's super interesting, and you can plan your day or your routine or everything, and then it's free for individuals. So it's quite interesting, and you can put it like a calendar and stuff. So you can link with Google and stuff, I think, as well. So it's quite interesting. It's one that we use on Cambly. So Notion, it's if you guys have wanted to try. So maybe the Google Keep, an interesting one. I didn't know about it. I would definitely research. So Trello, if you guys want it, and it's an interesting one as well. They have to adapt. Sometimes it works for some people, and it's not for others. So it's quite they have to.
Because the thing about Trello, what I found is that I didn't find the user interface to be very friendly. I felt that there was just like a lot of stuff that needed to be done, and I was like,
sometimes.
But again, it's all about the brain, right? It's all about what you prefer. So if it works for you, then another one that what was it? Is it called Monday?
Yeah, Monday.com. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already used this one.
I heard a lot of positive things about Monday.com, but I haven't used it myself, so I can't.
Yeah.
Next time I'll be like, right, ladies and gentlemen, I have used Monday.com.
I tried like for 1 week, but I know there's a lot of people who use it, but it's definitely worth the try and see if it works for you guys. So it's definitely interesting as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think we are like almost in the end. It was amazing. I think I saw here that we still have a little things, but maybe that's a good thing. We can even do another one talking a little bit more about this topic because it will be. I think it's interesting, and I like if do you like to finish with something like for the guys and girls here.
One thing, if there's only one piece of advice that I can give you, we are forced into lockdown. We are forced to not travel and do all of these wonderful things that we all miss. But there are some really positive things that have come out of this. And remote work and improving on remote work is definitely 100% one of the positive things that have come out of this terrible situation. I would say stay safe, everyone. Take care of each other and be kind to each other. And Thiago, thank you so much for having me. It's been super fun.
That was nice. That was super nice. And guys, if you want to have a class with Nat, I put it here, the link in the description. If you guys use the code that we put it here for a free class, and then use this code to have a class with Nat. So, and everything that you guys needed, I think you can still put it in the comments, send me some likes, and we do our best to answer all of those. So thank you very much for your time, Nat. It was amazing. And guys, I see you guys next week.
It's the cat looking at you. Does it want to be fed?
So we're doing more of those. It was definitely interesting. So guys, it was super interesting, super nice. Thank you everybody for being here with us today. And as you already know, put here in the description the comments and likes and everything that you wanted. Okay, so thank you, Nat. Thank you, everybody. So
gracias a todos.
Bye bye. Gracias a todos. Hasta luego.